happening, guys? It's the Wandering Hermit back again. Just doing a quick one today because it's late. But yeah, I just wanted to do one of the sort of YouTube tags today that I saw in one of Alvine Green's videos a couple of weeks ago. So I'll link that video down below. But yeah, I just want to talk about the prompts, you could say, the subjects that are in the prompt. So the first subject for this video is light. And I was thinking for ages, like, well, what can you actually talk about with regards to light? I mean, there's so much and therefore so little that you can squeeze into a single video. But yeah, light. It's funny because, you know, for light to be a subject as we're entering the dark half of the year, well, we're in the dark half of the year, approaching the darkest part of the year. You know, light is, as in natural light, is at its lowest at this time of year. You know, it's at its weakest in the Northern Hemisphere. Obviously in the south, for anyone in Australia, you guys are in the summer. You know, you're approaching summer solstice. But here in England, yeah, we're coming up to the winter solstice. So light really is something that is on a lot of people's minds. You know, when you're putting up your Yule decorations and, you know, or, you know, Christmas decorations, if you celebrate Christmas. For Hindus, around sort of November time, they celebrate Diwali, the festival of light. The idea really is that because the sun, the light of the sun is at its weakest, we bring light into the home instead. And we create light ourselves to see us through the dark time. And it just kind of gets you thinking about light itself and how light is not only essential for a majority of forms of life on this planet, but it's also a conveyor of information as well. If you think about fiber optic internet and things like that, it's the whole idea of transmitting information through pulses of light. There's this idea that light from distant stars has reached us after so many hundreds or thousands of years of traveling across space, and they carry information, they carry power, you know, those rays of light. There's this idea that the gods communicate to us through light and they travel across space in light. I was always fascinated by that idea, the idea that spirits could move through the lights. And you see that a lot in popular media, films and TV and things like that. Whenever spirits are about, you know, in your ghost stories, the lights always go funny first. There's the film with, I think it was Kevin Spacey, was it Kevin Spacey? Called K-Pax. And the idea is he's an alien consciousness from another star, and he travels through light and inhabits a human host. Even Stranger Things on Netflix, the idea that people in the Upside Down communicate to our world through light as well. And I think it's an idea that is really gaining traction, the idea that the spirits communicate to us through the light. I think that's why so many cultures across the world, across the ages, have valued sunlight, even before agriculture. And why we feel this need to bring light into the home, even in warm climates. You know, you're not needing the fire to keep warm, but you want the light in the home. I think it's so that the spirits have an outlet through which to talk to us. So just some offhand thoughts really on that. But the next prompt is I once thought, which is a funny one actually, because there are a lot of things that I once thought to be true or untrue, or that I've long since changed my mind upon. I'm sure that's true for anybody else on a long-term spiritual path. You'll start out so certain of who you are, what your practice is, what your, belief is, what path you're on. And then over time, little things, it's always little things that shift and change. And eventually you look back and go, wow, everything's so different. My beliefs, my practice, everything is so different to how it was when I started out. I used to think, well, I once thought that you had to pick a tradition and stick to it, for example. And because of that, I was kind of a cultural butterfly when I first started out on the path. I was floating between Hellenic Greek tradition, the ancient Egyptian mysteries, Judeo-Christian mythology, and, Gaelic and things like that. And eventually I was called to the Norse path. And whilst I'm still very much on the Norse path, and that is my cultural point of reference, I still bring in, ideas and bits of information from other spiritual traditions to fill in gaps in understanding in the Norse tradition. Because when you think about it, they all came from the same people. The further back in history you go, they all came from a parent tradition. And then obviously fragmented into different ones. So another thing I once thought was that was that absolutely anybody and everybody could practice magic. I thought, oh, this is so cool. That means, absolutely anyone can be taught. And I want to be a spiritual teacher. I've since kind of come to the opinion, at least, or, the personal understanding that not everyone can practice magic. Because for magic to really work, you need to have, strong intention, a very disciplined mind, and really, really good visualization skills. You need to be able to see things clearly and internally. And some people really struggle with that. As I've been working with people over the years, especially doing guided meditations and things like that, you realize that some people don't have a very strong capacity for internal visualization. So when you're thinking about manifestation magic, so much of it is about being able to see what it is that you're trying to manifest in here so that you can then project it outwards. But for people who struggle with that, it's like, well, they're going to struggle with manifesting the magic. A degree of belief as well. You need to really believe in what you're doing. I'm not saying you need to believe in spirits or deities. Plenty of people practice magic who don't believe in any of those things. But belief in what you're doing and belief in the power of your thoughts and intentions and the ability of the mind to influence matter. Some people just don't have that belief. Some people are so locked into a three-dimensional perception of reality that they just can't tap into that belief, and they can't bring themselves to believe in something that they can't see and touch with their hands. And these are the type of people that I refer to as muggles, just jokingly. Because no matter how much you try to give them all the tools to do magic, they just don't have the mind for it. So yeah, there's a couple of examples of things that I once thought that I now no longer think. Third prompt is darkness, which really should have come straight after light. Yeah, from a pragmatic perspective, but darkness, I think, rather than linking it to light, darkness, I think, at this time of year, we kind of focus on the things that have happened through the year. We reminisce. It's a time for reflection, isn't it? And at this time of year, I do find myself thinking back because I'm like, wow, it's the end of November. You know, Yule is literally a hop, skip, and a jump away. I've not done any preparation really, other than, you know, putting a bit of garland up or whatever. But still, you know, you think, where's the year gone? And when you think back to everything that's happened, kind of puts a lot of things into perspective. And we've had you know, a bit of a rough year. At least I've had a bit of a rough year. Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to depress everybody else with my woes, but you know, I think everyone has a darkness within that they have to face up to at some point in time. And I was trying to keep my darkness in a cage for a long, long time. And it's stupid because, you know, I've told so many people over the years, you know, doing shamanic healings and things, if you bottle up your emotion, if you bottle up your pain and you suppress your darkness and you don't give it a voice and give it a face and give it an outlet by means it can manifest into the world and you can know it, then you can never combat it. And yet I wasn't following my own advice. I mean, I was in some respects, but not in the respects that really, really mattered. And I was my shadow self, you could say. You know, everyone's got like their higher self, but I also believe we have a shadow self, a dark self, that is the sort of the dark mirror of the higher self. Some people refer to it as the ego. I don't think it's the ego. I think it's your personal demon, you could say. Amado Crowley, not Aleister Crowley, but his son, Amado Crowley, refers to them as straplatch. You know, in a way, parasitic spirit that feeds off of your insecurities and things. But yeah, my shadow threw me into a situation where I was forced to seek help. You know, I'd been saying to myself for years, yeah, I've got issues that need to be resolved and I need to get help with that. But I never did. I never took the step of actually asking for help. And as they say, don't get anything in life if you don't ask. So, yeah, my darkness manifested, reared its head and basically threw me off a cliff and said, right, now you have to. So I did. And I've been facing a lot of my own darkness lately. Found myself facing up to the reality that I've suffered for a very, 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 very long time, about 10 to 15 years or more of severe depression and anxiety. And, you know, when you finally acknowledge that and you think, well, okay, that's going to change. I'm going to illuminate the darkness. I'm going to shed light on those parts of myself that need the light. And suddenly I feel that things have shifted. You know, I've been given a lot of useful tools, really, exercises and things to help me recognize the root of certain problems and to nip it in the bud before it manifests. And really, when I was talking to the therapist, he was giving me all these tips and tricks, and I said, well, that's basically what I have other people do in my shamanic practice. He goes, well, there you go, you've already got the tools, you just need to apply them to yourself. Right, okay. You know, a lot of people in the community are, you know, opposed to the idea of medication. I used to be. and I rejected the idea of it for a long, long time. But I'm finding that, yeah, it's helping. It's helping quite a lot. I'm no longer anxious all the time. I'm no longer wired all the time. I'm a lot more mellow. And I can tell the days when I've not taken my dose because I feel a tightness in my chest at the like, and it accumulates through the day, and I go, I know why. But yeah, you know, I think everyone has their own version of this darkness within them that we eventually need to face up to. And it's hard, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, at the very least. And you can't do it alone. You do need people around you. You need a support network. But the sooner you bite the bullet, as it were, and do it, then the better things will be. You know, the sooner things will improve. The sooner you'll find that life can always be better. You know, no matter how bad things are, you could say, "Oh, it could be worse," and you start focusing on the bright side. So, yeah. Anyway, fourth prompt. What was the fourth? Into the forest. Right. Okay. So, you know, I'm sure everyone's going to talk about, oh, that place in the woods that you really like. I mean, I have my own place in the woods that I really like. Place that I was drawn to many years ago, and you see it in my old videos, actually, the Magical Mystery Tour with the Gods, the first video I ever put up. No, not the first. Second video. And then the follow-on to that, which was the Return to the Dark Hollow. Is that little copse of trees where, you know, the Land of the Vitir, they guided me to that place, and, you know, had me set up a stone circle in honor of Thor and of Jord, Thor's mother. Yeah, that's my little, like, happy place up on Pinston Hill. But I think that the forest within is just as important to acknowledge. We all have a place externally, whether it's in a public park or wherever, that we feel, you know, connected to nature and things. But I've spoken about the Frithgard in other videos, what some shamanic traditions call the sanctuary. It's a place within yourself that you journey to commune with spirits, to explore aspects of your own psyche, and, you know, things like that. And it's a safe space, really, where you're less, you know, I say not entirely immune from any kind of interference from other spirits, but you're less likely to have any kind of negative interference when you're in the Frithgard. But within that space, there's always going to be a forested area. And it's important to explore that, because a few people have noted that, and this is something that I noticed quite early on, the trees themselves appear to be memories that are growing and living in the forest of the mind. And hell, even the singer Passenger mentions it in one of his tracks. He said something about the I can't remember the exact lyric now. About a river that flows down through the forest of the mind where memory will grow. And that lyric kind of stuck with me, and I was like, yeah, that's another person who's noticed. So yeah, I mean, that internal forest is really good, because it's a safe place for you to wander internally. You imagine that you're taking a walk through the woods. And as you go, the trees themselves will talk to you. And if you sit with certain trees, if you meditate with those certain trees in your mind, likelihood is you'll access memories that you've completely forgotten about. And they'll hold answers to certain questions you might have. But, you know, I could go into the benefits of forest bathing and everything else. But, you know, there are enough people out there talking about Shinrin-yoku. But yeah, I mean, I do forest bathe when I can, which is not very frequently lately, unfortunately. With a full-time job, 2 kids, house move, and trying to do spiritual practice on the side as well. Yeah, yeah. So the 5th and final prompt is incense. Incense. It is incense. I don't have any incenses on me at the moment. They're all still packed up in my spell box. I've got a big wooden chest where I keep all of the sort of tools and items that are used for like ritual magic and things. So all my incenses are in there. But yeah, we use incense quite a lot when we're doing magic. Particularly when we're communing with, you know, the higher spirit, your higher self. I find that the 2 scents that really correspond to my spiritual power are patchouli and dragon's blood. When they're used in combination, I don't know, it just triggers something, and that sort of spirit of earth and fire comes through, and I'm able to work that spirit into my magic, and it makes it very, very powerful. Again, something I don't do anywhere near as often as I'd like to. But yeah, patchouli and dragon's blood, good combo. I mean, I kind of wasn't sure whether to just talk about the fragrances or the scents that I really like, but you know, there are too many really, and I use different scents for different things. But really, I'd rather talk about why incense is important in magic. Many of you will be familiar with the idea or the law of correspondence. This it's one of the 7 Hermetic principles, where everything in nature is connected to everything else, and you can categorize nature into groups that share similar energy or similar power. So certain colors will have certain sounds associated with them. So red, for example, some people associate it with the keynote of F. People refer to the heart chakra or the color green. That they associate that with the keynote of G, which I also do, because when I play any music in the key of G major, it always sounds happy and joyful. It's what you get a lot of your like really nice dancey folk music in, is in the key of G. So this is kind of backed up by modern science anyway, because you look at the acoustic spectrum and the electromagnetic spectrum or the light spectrum. It is all actually the same thing. It's just the acoustic spectrum is the light spectrum in slow motion. And just as sound, music will repeat, it has a set pattern, which is the octave, and that repeats. So too does light and colour. So when you go through the light spectrum, you'll go from, you know, red through to orange, yellow, green, sort of aquamarine, blue, indigo, violet, pink, back to red, if you were to just cycle around. Of course, when you get through violet, you go into ultraviolet. At the other end, you got infrared. So, you know, again, it's this idea that if sound repeats, then light also repeats. And therefore you have patterns, recurring patterns through nature. So it would make sense that you would have a musical note that corresponds to a colour, because they're part of the same pattern that's repeating. Literally, the colour is just many octaves above the keynote that it's associated with. Not only that, certain shapes, geometric patterns, geometric shapes, the platonic solids, for example, are often associated with musical notes. They're associated with colours. And through this, we also associate them with alchemical elements as well. The Archimedean solids kind of factor into that as well. Anyway, I'm going too much into correspondence. I always do that. But yeah, the idea of correspondence is that because everything's connected to everything else, when you're doing your magic, you're combining different manifestations of the same energy. So you can be combining the colour red with your dragon's blood scent and the symbol of the tetrahedron, three-sided pyramid, upright equilateral triangles, as I've noted, the keynote of F, what else? Constellations, constellation of Aries, for example. You can factor that in. Certain animals will be associated with a phoenix as a alchemical symbol, or tiger. Tigers are often associated with fire, especially in Chinese law. Or dragons, salamanders. Images of volcanoes, whatever. Anything fire related. All those things correspond to the alchemical element of fire. So if you're trying to manifest something through candle magic, especially if you want to manifest passion into your life, either creative passion or romantic passion, and you're using a red candle. So you've got red, which is associated with fire. You've got the flame itself, which is the physical element of fire. You could be burning your dragon's blood incense at the same time to stimulate that. All of these different aspects, you could say, are working on the energetic level. You're combining different types of energy to amplify that intention and aligning it with your intention. But incense in particular, I find, at least, is just a really good focusing tool. It's a really good trigger, psychological trigger. And because the interactions between the spirit world and the physical world all take place through the agency of the mind, the mental realm, just as, white light is refracted by a prism, the mind is the prism for us to see the rainbow. So if I'm trying to tap into a certain idea, a certain power, then the scent of patchouli or the scent of dragon's blood will trigger something in my mind, because smell is very strongly associated with emotion and memory. So I use incense quite a lot in my magical practice for that purpose of getting myself into the correct headspace. And that's even before I start casting circles, cleansing, whatever. I put the incense on first to prep the mental faculties and get myself into that space to work the magic. So I'm coming up to half an hour. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much for listening. As I say, I'll link Alvine Green's video down below. Let me know what you guys think. Make your own videos, with these prompts. Tag me into it. And I'd like to, see your guys' thoughts on these issues as well, on these subjects. So for now, again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.